Over the last 7 months, I discovered dozens of cool tricks for 1.20, but not all of them work on the full release. Hello there, Ray here, and I'll show you all 20 tricks that still work in 1.20. You can finally use shields in the update to block TNT damage. And I showed how this can be used to make really simple player launchers where you can send the player thousands of blocks in whatever direction you want just by having a shield. You can see I went over 23,000 blocks and the shield didn't even take any damage. You can now re-dye wool, carpets, as well as beds, even if they're not originally the white color. The signs hanging from the side can actually float, but you normally can't get these other ones floating. But there's a cool trick that actually lets you get these type of signs. And I did a tutorial on it, which I'll link below, so you can check out after this one. 1.20 brings in a new boat, which is the bamboo raft. When you actually put stuff inside of it, you will see they will sit up much higher. You can use it so the player can actually reach stuff that they normally can't reach from within a boat. So if I go ahead and like ride this llama here, you can see my head's actually inside of some blocks. But with this new taller llama, I can actually stand above it and operate things. And I use something similar in this crazy tree farm, so we can move the player from afar without it taking up room inside the farm. You could also easily just build a snow golem and put it in this to sweep mobs out of a portal, because before, if you ever had blocks any lower, it would cause the mobs to suffocate. And I use this portal sweeping in some of my mob farms, so you no longer have to have tall mobs like Ghast or Enderman in order to sweep a platform. You might think that the change with the player being affected by the edge of blocks would occur in all of them. This change doesn't actually affect scaffolding when you're on the edge of it, because normally when you're inside of it and you press spacebar, you climb it like a ladder. But if you're partially on the edge here, when you hit spacebar, you actually jump up it like jumping up individual blocks. The new change also doesn't affect how you go down inside of it, so if you're in the middle of it, you slowly go down like a ladder. But if you're on the outer edge, you will drop all the way down and take fall damage. Outer snow works the same way, where it's smooth on the inside and jumping on the outside with some leather boots on. But when you crouch on the outside, you don't actually take fall damage, but you do slide most of the way. Keep in mind, the blocks affecting the player's movement only occurs if the majority thing that you're touching is these blocks, rather than if you're on this side. Now the majority what I'm touching is this grass block, so I can move at normal speed. So you still need to aim for the middle of a slime, otherwise you're just going to hit the block beside it and take damage. That is unless there is carpet on top of it, in which case you get the effect of the block that's underneath of it. We also got 6 new unique size blocks for 1.20. So when you organize all the blocks from the thinnest to the tallest, the pitcher plant itself has this little bulb here. You can actually stand on this, which is same as like this amethyst one. And the little bulb is a different size, the same height as like a trapdoor. You also get different collision if you bump up against the side, which is like bumping up against a coarse plant, where bumping up against the small pod is the same as hitting this flat ball. But the weirdest part about the pitcher plant is that it actually hangs below a block. So if you like stand underneath of this block here and then move to the right, you actually bump your head against this little pixel here. But this is usually not possible because if you remove the block below it, it will update the plant. But you can use update suppression to get these floating ones. But there's actually a weird secret to do with these, where normally if you would point at a block, as long as your cursor highlights the block, you should be able to click and break it. But the single pixel at the bottom of this plant, despite you aiming at it, doesn't actually highlight the block, and if you would click to try to break the plant from here, you actually just end up clicking the blocks behind it. The sniffer egg is also a bit odd. Not only does it crack over time and eventually hatch, but it's actually wider one direction than it is the other. So you could use it to like align items similar to like a chest if it's this direction, or if you use it to line items on this side similar to like a sea pickle. But the weird thing is, it doesn't matter which way you are facing, the sniffer egg will always be facing with the widest end east to west. This makes it directional, just like your cakes are when you eat them. You can also push and pull these new eggs. The new piglin head is quite strange, because unlike other mob heads, which you only can walk on the parts you can see, the piglin head you can see that we can actually walk on parts which are not actually part of the head. This means they have a unique size. Unlike the other mob heads, they are a pixel wider, but they are still squarish, so these two types are the same. But they are the same as other heads, only if you come from this side. Pots are the same size as a chest, so you can use them for like item aligning, but they are tile entities, so make sure not to place a whole bunch in your world, as they take up more data than normal blocks. Pots still actually have some secrets inside. They got some Z fighting, and if we look upwards, we can see there's a little dark spot right here, and if we look inside the neck of it, there are these completely black pixels. Because they're decorative pots, you can't normally store stuff inside them, but you can place a normal pot on top of them and then place some lovely vegetation. You can do some cool stuff like have a bamboo in the pot and then have a cherry blossom leaf on top of that. You can also place all the different types of pressure plates on them to make it look like they're full of different things, or torches or lanterns. You can even waterlog it to get lily pads to stay. When placing down a pot and looking at it with F3, if you look on the right hand side, you see there is a tag called cracked. Normally this is set to false, but using a debug stick, we can actually switch them to actually being true. And what this does is normally when you break a pot, it sounds like this. But if you break a cracked pot, it'll actually make a cracking noise besides the breaking noise. But normally the player can walk right through the neck of the pot, but in creative, if you place down a small pitcher pod, you can make it so your player actually steps up on it. so stacking them makes the tops disappear. Builders should have a lot of fun using these new blocks. Torch flower is also new, but it's not actually anything to do with torches other than it looks like a torch and is where it gets its in real life name, but it doesn't put off any light. Like some other flowers, you can use a torch flower on a brown mushroom, and this will actually make it so that when you do scoop stew from it, instead of just getting normal stew, you end up getting suspicious stew. And when you consume it, it'll give you night vision for a short period. But out of all the new blocks, the hanging sign actually has the unique hitbox that we've never seen before in the game. And when I put it here inside my upside down staircase, which goes from the lowest block all the way up to the tallest, we can see that the sign now reached a new row. When before the thinnest thing we had was a trapdoor, but now if we come over here and press up against this arm of the sign, it's actually a little bit thinner, as it's only 2 pixels wide. So the trapdoor is 3 and the pitcher plant bottom is 1. Which means we finally actually have a block for every single pixel height, starting with 1 pixel thin and counting all the way up to a total of 16 pixels thick, plus 1 extra, which is the chain, which size is actually between 2 pixels. Which makes the second completed staircase if we include the longest staircase here, but the sideways stair is only missing 1, which is the single pixel width. The sniffer and camel also have some unique sizes, so if we put them in a row with all the other mobs in the game from widest to thinnest, we can see that the camel sits here with the sniffer just nearby. But if we instead sort them by their heights, we can see the camel is actually quite tall, but we have to go all the way down here near the creeper in order to find the sniffer. With the new sniffer mob and camel mob, they are the first mobs that actually go from being bigger to actually being smaller when they sit down. Where the other mobs we have are the shulkers, which get bigger, as well as the pufferfish. For the camels, they actually go down lower than half their size, so if you accidentally place blocks above them and they stand up, they will be inside of them and suffocate. And I use this to create a new way to get above the bedrock ceiling. I'll have the full video in the description. If you're riding camel in multiplayer server and you have your player go underneath of a block while riding the camel, you can see the player will actually shrink down, and if you continue, of course, you're going to suffocate in the block beside it. But if you watch other people do this, it doesn't appear that they're actually shrinking, but they will take damage. And like horses, you can dispense a saddle onto a camel just by using a dispenser. 1.20 camels can walk over fences, so I made this insanely fast camel ladder, and even the fastest horse in Minecraft couldn't keep up with it. Amethyst blocks now have a new redstone component. That is, if they're beside a skulk sensor, when the skulk hears a certain type of vibration, these blocks will then be able to resonate that same vibration outwards to any other nearby skulk sensor. And I use this to actually make a memory circuit which remembers what type of vibration occurs. It can be also used for a wireless redstone where you can send signals far away and even decode exactly what type of vibration was going on. In the back of a desert temple, there's a secret room hiding underneath the sand. And if you clear it all away, you can then find this crazy looking room that looks kind of similar to the 4 sides down here, except inside of each of these notches, there's not actually any chest. And if you clear out this direction over here, you can actually find that there is a staircase that leads you into this area. The new brush can also be enchanted with unbreaking to make its durability last longer, as well as mending so you can easily repair it. And you can even put the curse of vanishing on it so that when you die, it will vanish, so no one else can pick it up. Otherwise, when you typically use one of these brush and actually complete using it on a suspicious sand, this will take 1 durability away. And since it only has 64 durability, if you're doing a lot of archaeology, it's definitely worth going ahead and enchanting it. The trick I showed where you can get the suspicious sand block in survival still works in 1.20 full release. What you want to do is find some suspicious sand or suspicious gravel either at these new trail runes or the cold ocean runes or the warm ocean runes or the desert temples or the desert wells. There's 2 ways you can easily pull off this trick. If the suspicious block you're going for does have other gravity blocks below it, you want to make sure to place a torch in here. And we're going to switch out this block with a cobweb, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to hold down right click to place in the cobweb, and then we're going to hold left click to break it. As soon as the block breaks, we automatically replace it. All you have to do is remove this block and then let it fall into it, and also remember to remove the block underneath of the cobweb. And now the suspicious sand is falling through the cobweb as an entity. You can see the little hitbox here, and any falling block that sits in the air too long without being supported will be dropped as its item. And once it drops, you can go ahead and pick it up as the item. The trick also works with bubble columns, placing in some soul sand, then some water, and then break the block. And now you just let it bounce in the water until it converts to an item. Now the suspicious sand is just for looks mostly. When placed down, looks just like it does inside the structure. But if we look at the information within this suspicious sand or gravel, we will see that the game actually erases any loot that it would give, and instead replaces that loot with just air. That makes these different than the ones you actually find inside the structures, which have an NBT tag And if we go ahead and look at these, we'll see that there's a lot of information here about what type of loot comes from it, as well as which loot table seed it uses. So if we were to actually use our brush on the one that the player acquired, you'll see that no item comes out of it, and the air that's inside of it doesn't actually drop as any item you can pick up. But they are a pretty rare block to obtain and collect, and can be used kind of as a currency since they're quite rare with not too many of these type of structures about. Plus, in order to acquire this type of suspicious sand, you lose out on the potential cool loot that you could have got out of it, such as like sniffer eggs, or the new templates, or pottery shards, or the new music disc. Suspicious gravel and sand can also be used like the normal variations if you really want to show off. In 1.20, loot tables are deterministic, so it doesn't matter what world you are in. Based off of the seed, you'll know exactly what items you'll get in what order. This includes stuff like from chest, bartering, fishing, and even like mob loot. So if we kill this blaze, we didn't get a blaze rod. This one, we also didn't get one, but we got one on the third one. So if we do the same thing in a new world with the exact same seed, we can expect the exact same outcome of items that we get, and we can also expect the exact same loot when it comes to the mobs as well, with the third one giving us a blaze rod. So each loot table is already known, but the loot tables between things are actually different, so depending on what you get from like this piglin bartering isn't going to determine what you're actually going to get from a blaze, as each loot table is independent from others. This doesn't, however, affect looting, which has its own loot table and will give you a percentage of what could drop based off of the actual looting. Usually it's not possible to get black colored fish in the game. That's because when they first introduced tropical fish, they didn't want the eyes to be so hard to see, so they only allowed gray colors. But recently they accidentally made it so that these fish will spawn in. So with the black colors added in the game, that means there's 3,072 unique tropical fish that you can collect. That's almost 400 more than there was before. So make sure to collect all the different colored black ones before they fix this bug. You can easily collect tons and tons of tropical fish by using my AFK fish in a bucket farm, which I'll have linked below. The dragon dupe trick still works in 1.20. We hop over here, we can see we duplicated them and now we got a bunch of them. So if you first eat an enchanted golden apple, afterwards eat a normal golden apple, and then wait for the absorptions to count down to 0. But then when you lose that one, you just lose a couple hearts, but you won't lose all of them. When normally if you just ate one apple, once the absorption effect went away, so would your hearts. So you can have these permanent absorption hearts, which can be helpful in hardcore. But you can actually get more of these absorption hearts by repeating the process, and every time you do this, you'll gain a permanent 6 absorption hearts. And you can just keep stacking these up in survival until you reach the maximum cap. So you can take a ton of damage and still survive. Now build these 8 new 1.20 automatic farms. And remember, if you have Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime, use it to subscribe to me over at Twitch as an easy way to support me. Plus get your name on this list, and big thanks to all my supporters. Otherwise, you can always leave a like on the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.